Hello, folks. I hope you're doing well. I have been practicing a lot of classical guitar recently, and I'm definitely feeling it in my fingers. Guitars are really big compared to ukuleles, and my hands need a bit of a break. So I thought we could look at a little classical piece on the ukulele and give my fingers a break at least. So I have pulled out In the Hall of the Mountain King. It is a fun little tune. You've probably heard it before. You know, it's the one that kind of sounds like the Inspector Gadget theme. So we're going to talk through the melody and glance at some of the chords that you can play as well. But most of what we're going to be doing here is playing individual notes. We're going to be playing through this little piece. So get warmed up and let's get to it. So I have arranged this piece in the key of D minor. You can see that if you look at the PDF, you will see that it starts with a D minor chord. And our melody is starting on a D note. Now, most songs are going to start off in the key that they're in, but not always. And that's what we have a key signature for. If you glance at the standard notation up at the top, right next to the treble clef, you'll see a little B symbol marking the middle line there. And that is telling us that this is in the key of D minor. It could potentially be the key of F major as well. They're all the same notes. Both of them just have a B flat in them. So we have D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C, D. And that is the scale that this song is based off of. Now, knowing your way around that scale can be helpful. It can help you figure out how you're going to finger the frets and how to maybe make any stretches that you might encounter. It's not going to prepare you entirely for any given song, but it's going to give you a really good foundation. So again, that D minor scale, if you wanted to check it out, is 2nd fret of the C string, open E, 1st fret of the E, 3rd fret, move up to the A string, open A, 1st fret, 3rd fret, and then up to the 5th fret. So D to D. Now already, just playing up that scale, you know, we've got a bit of this song already in there. The song starts off by just walking up that D minor scale. So let's take a look at that first measure. I'm playing 2nd fret of the C string. That's my D note. And I'm going to start walking up. So I play the right there, and then open E, 1st fret, 3rd fret. Now here, I am going up to my open A string, but I want to leave my pointer finger close to this 1st fret of the E string right here, because I'm going to be playing that again right after the open A. And then back to the open A. So it'll go like this. Now, you can see I'm lifting my finger up and away, and I'm only doing that so you can kind of see what I'm playing. When you play this, you won't want to move that finger very far. I am exaggerating, getting that finger out of the way so you can see what's going on. We move on to the 2nd measure here, and now we're starting to bend out of the scale. You see some of those sharps and flats and the natural symbol in there, mixing things up. Those are accidentals. Those are notes that don't naturally occur in the key that we're playing in D minor here. So we're bending out of our scale a little bit, of our key a little bit. But if we're looking at the tabs, all I have to know is that I'm playing the 4th fret of the E string, 4th fret of the C string, and back to the 4th of the E. I've got. And I can do that with individual fingers holding down the 4th fret right there of those strings. If I wanted to, I could use a finger to bar those 2 strings. And all I'm doing for the next part is just moving down a fret, and I'm playing the 3rd frets of the E and C strings. What it'll look like if I'm just using a single finger. I'm going to put those first 2 measures together here. Do that one more time. All right. Next up, I'm playing the same thing as the first measure. I'm doing that walk up. But now I've got an extra note. I want to play the 5th fret at the end of that measure there. So instead of hanging on that open A and just letting it breathe, I am jumping quickly up to the 5th fret of that A string. And I'm using my pinky finger for that. I'm just stretching out. So this is a good opportunity to exercise your pinky. And I'm going to the 3rd fret of the A string, open A, 1st fret, open, 3rd fret. So that was the 4th measure. 3rd fret of the A, open A, 1st fret of the E, open A, 3rd fret of the A. Now you'll also notice, just in terms of fingering, for the most part, what I'm trying to do is keep a finger assigned to each fret. So if a note occurs on the 1st fret, I'm using my index finger. If it occurs on the 2nd fret, I'm using my middle finger. If it occurs on the 3rd fret, I'm using my ring finger. And my pinky will tackle either the 4th fret or the 5th fret if I have to stretch out a little bit farther. The pinky's kind of like that, the finger of all trades, I guess. Now, that's just a guideline. There are going to be instances where you're going to have to use different fingers to play different frets. But that's kind of our starting point. It's our home base is this position. Specific fingers are assigned to specific frets, and we will break from that formation as necessary. All right, let's put those first 4 measures together. You can see my plucking hand. We'll talk about right hand shortly. And then moving on to the next section, these 4 measures are all going to be played on the A string. Now, there are other ways that we can do this, but for this particular song, for simplicity's sake, no matter what, we have to travel up the neck of the ukulele to play this next spot. And for me, it just feels natural to do all of that on just the A string. It seems like the simplest, most straightforward way to do it. It has its challenges for sure, but this is the way that I think will be the most approachable. Okay, so essentially what's happening here is we're kind of changing keys. We've changed from the key of D minor to the key of A major. It's kind of what's happening here. It's a weird little trick composers use. All right, so here I'm going from the open A string, 2nd fret, 4th fret, 5th fret, then I'm jumping up to the 7th fret. Oops. Now the fingers that I'm using here are my index finger on the 2nd fret of that A string. Already we're changing from that original formation, right? I'm using my middle finger for the 4th fret, ring finger for the 5th fret, and then pinky for the 7th fret. So 0, 2, 4, 5, 7. There are 4 fretted notes, and I have 4 fingers with which to fret. So I am using all of them. That does mean that I'm going to have to stretch my hand in a little bit of a unique way. The thing to remember is once you get to the next finger or the next fret, you no longer have to hold that previous note down. So you don't have to be able to hold all 4 of these frets down at the same time. You can kind of pivot your wrist. Okay. So we are going 0, 2, 4, 5, 7, 4, 7. So notice how I kind of adjusted so my pointer finger took over on the 4th fret there when my pinky was on the 7th fret. One more time there. Next measure, I'm playing the 8th fret to the 4th fret, back up to the 8th, and then I go back to 7, 4, 7. So measures 5 and 6 are going to sound like this. I'll do that one more time. So it's a little bit of a stretch, and that's why I'm using my index finger and my pinky finger, because I can get the biggest reach using these 2 fingers. I can stretch my hand out pretty far. So measures 7 and 8, it's very similar. I'm doing that walk up and 7, 4, 7. And I do the 8, 4, 8. But this time I just stop on the 7th fret and I let that note ring out for the rest of the measure. And play that again. So measures 7 and 8. I'm going to do that one more time, and I'm going to call out the fret numbers as I go. 0, 2, 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 8, 4, 8, 7. All right, now let's put together measures 5 through 8. So let's play through the 4 measures in that 2nd row. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. All right. And then the final row is kind of going back to what we played at the very beginning, and we just have a slightly different ending to that row now to kind of finish the song off. Okay, so we start off the same way as the very first measure. I'm going back to our D minor scale here. 4th fret of the E and C. And then we slide down to the 3rd fret. And we do 2nd fret of the C again. We walk up. We've got to reach up for that 5th fret again. But this last measure is where it changes up. I'm going to play 4th fret of the A. Open. 4th fret again. 7th fret. And we end on the 5th fret. Okay. Let's walk through that again. I'm going to play 9 and 10 first. So that's same as you saw at the beginning. Okay. Now, measure 11 here is the same as the 3rd measure that you saw. And measure 12, here's where it changes. I'm playing the 4th fret, open, 4th fret again, 7th fret, and I end on the 5th fret. Now, I'm going to play measure 12 again because I want you to watch closely what my fingers are doing there. So, walking up. When I play that measure, when I finish measure 11, my pinky finger is on the 5th fret of the A string. So the easiest thing to do is to play the 4th fret with my ring finger. It's the finger that's right next door. And then I play the open string, and I'm going to use that open string as an opportunity for me to shift positions because I know that I have to get up to that 7th fret there. So when I hit that open A, I am switching to my pointer finger on the 4th fret. When I play that again, that way my pinky can easily reach up to the 7th fret, and I can end with my middle finger on the 5th fret of the A there. I could use my pointer finger again if I wanted to, or we could play a chord there, which I will show you in just a moment. So let's play through, let's just do measures 11 and 12 again, just so you can kind of get used to that new ending. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So take that as slow as you need to. That's a lot of movement going on. I definitely recommend printing this page out and making notes on the page for yourself, or if you have some sort of note-taking, some sort of way of digitally note-taking on your PDF, then that'll work just fine. But just like little reminders, oh, I should switch my finger here, or you know, Ross said to use this finger, but this is way more comfortable for me, and it sounds good. You know, any performance notes like that that'll help you remember, because when you're playing through a song like this, it's easy to forget, oh, which finger was I supposed to use there, or you know, how was I supposed to play that? So taking notes is good. You can always return back to this video, but having notes right on the page is definitely a good way to go. Now let's try running through the whole thing. I'm going to try and keep it at a nice slow tempo. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3. want to focus in on the right hand here, or your strumming hand. If you're used to strumming a lot, then you're kind of used to using, a single finger, maybe your thumb, to do strumming up and down. Index finger, maybe you prefer to use a pick, and you're strumming up and down like so. Obviously, when we're playing melodies, we're playing one string at a time usually. We have to be a little bit more precise. We can certainly achieve that with a pick. And coming from guitar, that's really comfortable for me. But it does take time to figure out how to get your pick to pluck exactly what you want to pluck. When I was playing through that, my eyes were focused on my left hand and where my fingers were going, what frets those were going to. So my right hand really has to know what it's doing in order for all that to come together. And that takes time. You might have noticed that I had fingers resting on the strings. That is definitely to help me keep my bearings. And those fingers will have to get out of the way when I need to play that A string. But when I'm not playing on that A string, my fingers might come down to rest near those strings, or even on those strings, depending on what I'm playing and where I'm going. The best way to practice that is to just focus on playing those strings. So I could just look at this song and pluck the strings where I'm supposed to, like play the string for each note, but don't do anything with your left hand. Like don't fret the second fret, open E, first fret, third fret. Like, don't even worry about your fretting hand. Just try playing the frets the strings with either your pick or with your fingers. I'll show you fingers in just a second, but it'll sound like this. Which doesn't sound like anything. If you want, you can mute your strings with your left hand, so you just get like little tiny chunks. You might also notice that I'm alternating my picking, right? So I am on my ones, I'm doing a downstroke, and on my ands, doing the upstroke. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I can practice playing adjacent strings like that. So maybe doing a downstroke on my E string and an upstroke on my C string. Trying to do down on the E, up on the C. Do that with any pair of strings if I wanted to. I could do it on the C and G, A and E. And then I could practice crossing. And of course, just playing on one string, doing down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Practicing getting comfortable with that. There's a lot to be explored there that we are kind of skipping over in this particular lesson. But if you'd like to see something like that, let me know, and we can do an entire lesson just on plucking with a pick or plucking with your fingers, which we'll take a look at next. That is going to be a similar technique, but instead of an up and down motion like I was using with the pick. Here I'm walking with my fingers. I'm walking with my index finger and middle finger. So if I'm playing just on one string, it's going to look like that. But I can also cross strings like this. And like before, when I was using the pick and I was resting my fingers on the A string like that, I was resting my pinky and my ring finger over there. So these fingers could do their thing. Here, when I'm playing with my fingers, a lot of times I will rest my thumb on one of the strings. In this particular arrangement, you don't use the G string at all. So I did that on purpose because, as you can see, I'm playing with a low G instrument right here, but I wanted to make sure that this would work on either a low G or a high G ukulele. So I intentionally left the G string out, which means you can totally just rest your thumb right there. And again, that'll just give you a little bit of bearings on where you are. You can feel where all of those strings are. And knowing that you're using the C string, E string, and A string in this song, you can practice walking around those three strings with your index finger and middle finger. And if you want to get your ring finger in the mix as well, that would be pretty cool. I'm going to play through the whole piece so you can see what my right hand is doing while I'm playing this song. And I'll try to keep it relatively slow. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 3, 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4. When I'm plucking with my fingers like that, I want to make sure that my hand is relaxed. So I don't want to pluck strings and then, scrunch up my fingers. I don't want to pluck a string and then put my fingers out like this. I don't want to leave them out like this and pluck like that. That's just, not comfortable. You want to just get your hand nice and relaxed. Imagine you're holding an orange. And just leave your fingers nice and relaxed so they're arched like that. If you've played piano, this should be a familiar resting state for your fingers. And you're plucking and relaxing back to their resting state, right? So I'm just plucking up a little bit and then resting. Let's take a quick look at the chords in this song. So D minor. We have an E. And the way that I'm playing this E is I'm barring the 4th fret with one finger. In this case, I'm using my ring finger because it's a comfortable finger for me to just jump to. The E flat is the same deal. I am barring with one finger, and I am only barring the G, C, and E strings. I am not playing the A string on those chords. One reason is it's a little bit harder to add those extra notes in, to add that A string note, or if I was doing it up here, it's a little bit of extra work. But the real reason is because where the melody sits. I want the highest note of that chord to go no higher than the highest note in the melody. So that is a stylistic choice. I think it sounds better when we play the chords like that. F, we know and love. When we get to the A section, A, you may very well be familiar with. But then we have this A augmented chord in there. And there's a couple ways that we could play that. I could bar. So I've got my, if I'm playing the normal A chord, the way that I would, I've got my middle finger on the second fret of the G, index finger on the first fret of the C, and then my open E and open A strings. And I could just drop my pointer finger on the first fret of the E string there, and voila, it is a augmented chord. But if I did want that open A sounding out in there, I might want to try this fingering for the A augmented. It's a little bit trickier. You got to squeeze your fingers in a little bit, a little tight there. But I'm using my ring finger for the second fret of the G string, still pointer finger for the first fret of the C string, but I'm adding my middle finger to the first fret of the E string there. And by playing like that, I can get my fingers to come straight down on those strings, so there'll be nothing getting in the way of that open A string. So I can have that extra A in my chord voicing. Now, if I was going to do that, I might want to try practicing just playing my regular A with these fingers, using my ring finger and pointer finger, leaving my middle finger free to play the augmented and back to A. Like so. And then the final measure, we're basically looking at the same chords that we saw up at the beginning, except we're throwing an A into the mix now. Now, I hesitated there because what I wanted to do was jump up to this D minor, which is something that you could do if you wanted to, even if you're just playing the melody, like when we get to that ending. I could play this version of the D minor, where I am barring the 5th fret of all the strings with my index finger, and I'm playing the 7th fret of the G with my ring finger. And that gives us a D minor chord where the D note is the highest note in the chord, and it's also the very same note that the melody ends on in this song. So it's a really nice resolution to play that D minor up here. An abbreviated way that you could play it is just doing these three strings, omitting the G string and just playing the 5th fret of the A, E, and C. We could also end on a D minor 7, which is just the 5th fret of all of your strings. But it's got a little bit of a different tone. That minor 7th sound is really cool, but it doesn't have as definitive of an ending as that. I'll show you what I mean. Versus right? There's still a little question in there. Whereas, just landing on the D minor, it's just, yeah, that's how it ends. Let's do the partial chord there. Sounds pretty nice. So that is In the Hall of the Mountain King on the ukulele in the key of D minor. There are a lot of techniques going on in here, and I encourage you to reach out if you have any questions. If you're like, hey, I need to see more of how you're finger picking, or hey, I need you to slow down on the neck there. How are you doing that? Questions about music theory, about timing, anything like that. Please shoot me an email at tinyvillagemusic@gmail.com, and I would be happy to talk through the piece with you. I hope you enjoy this song, and this style of music is really fun to play. So if you'd like to see more of it, definitely let me know. Stay safe out there, and I will talk to you next week. Bye. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and my computer went to sleep. Okay.